other than the encryption in the router. But anyway, that's, we'll be doing that again in November, and that's worth extra credit if anybody wants to join us doing that. By the way, if you do a project like that cuts across all of my classes, you only get credit in one class. There was a guy that was actually going to get me fired, driven out of the college, screaming because he did an extra credit project and he wanted duplicate credit in every one of the classes. He was taking like 3 of my classes. They would not listen to me telling him I never promised that. That's not what happens. That doesn't make any sense. So I'll just mention it in passing. Or I referred 20 points in one of my classes. All right. So those are common security measures. If you are at a company, you don't want to use pre-shared key. And WPA and WPA2 both have a key. And in the home version, you have a pre-shared key. You type the key into the router, and you type it into every machine. Or you use this WPS, where you press a button in the router and a button down here, and it automatically transmits the key, which is cool. But it's still a single key, and that's not okay for a company, because what do you do if you're at a company and you fire somebody? If you change the key, everybody has to type in the new key everywhere. If you don't change the key, the fired person can still get on. This doesn't make any sense. You use 802.1x. 802.1x uses a Radius server. Every person has their own password to get on. It's controlled by the Radius server, and now you can make them change their password, let them change their password when they want to, remove one guy. Yeah.
Isn't that what WPA Enterprise is for?
That's what they call it. Yeah, this is Enterprise and the other is Personal. So there's four of them. You can look at it. There's WPA and WPA2, and there's Personal and Enterprise. And they both, so there's 4 combinations. WPA Personal, WPA2 Personal. This is with the pre-shared key. And there's WPA2 Enterprise and WPA2 Enterprise, and this is with the 802.1x server, which, like a domain controller, is a central point of administration where it contains all the passwords. And when anybody connects, they're a supplicant, they connect to the 802.1x, they connect to the access point, it lets them connect, but the only thing they can do is pass up credentials, like a password, which it will then pass to the 802.1x server, and only if you pass that test will it let you on the network. Yeah.
So is that also what ties in with a VPN, when people have to VPN into their networks?
I'm not sure where you store it. I think there are different types. For example, a college for a while had a special wireless device, and the passwords were only on that device. It did not integrate with Active Directory, so that was terrible. It only had room for 3,000 students, and there was no way to remove them when they quit being students. So it just filled up after a few semesters. So we switched to, it depends on what you buy, that's a separate one. So we bought one that actually integrates with Active Directory. And it takes your login as a student, and then you can log into the wireless. That's why you use your W number to configure your wireless now. So with better equipment, it'll actually integrate with your other servers. Anyway, that's the game there. So you connect with this network icon down here. If you have turned off SSID broadcast, which is not a very good thing to do, but some people like to do it for what they call security, then you will not appear on this list. That's why you have this option called Join Another Network, which I don't see here, but it's on the real machine. Let me bring it up here. But this machine probably doesn't have a wireless. All right, anyway. But these are people that are broadcasting usually 10 times per second, their network, and you can connect to any of them. Get a warning with a shield if it's locked, which means you're going to need a WPA or WEP key to get in. If it doesn't have that, it's open. Anybody can just connect. Here's WPS. There's actually 4 ways to do it. I talked about the button. You can also do it by typing in a PIN number, which is unfortunately an 8-digit number. You can use an RFID. Some of them have near short-range radio, like a card reader, so you have to move your computer near the access point and press a button and it will send it through short-range radio. Or you can have a USB flash drive that plugs in your router, it puts it on there, you can plug that in your machine. These are all intended to make it easier for people to use WPA2 by moving the PIN and not having to remember it. And that will hopefully, the idea was it would make us all more safe because the pins wouldn't all be common dictionary words, which is what people usually choose. And it wouldn't be just written on masking tape on the router and all that, but it was implemented so poorly with such a short pin that it lowered the security down to where WPA with WPS is even less secure than WEP, I would say. Or it's comparable. It just means anybody can sail right in without the key pretty fast. Although some manufacturers have implemented non-standard proprietary anti-brute force measures in their WPS. Quite a few of them, if you guess the wrong WPS key 10 times, will lock you out for like 5 minutes to slow down the attack anyway. And that's something. And in practice, by the way, any router that costs, when I did this, tested this stuff about a year and a half ago, any router that costs less than $150, the hardware is so lousy that it will crash if you try to brute force the WPS before you get very far. And so unless your customer is naive enough to keep rebooting it every few minutes for like a day and not feel like something is wrong, you're not going to be able to get in. Anyway, that's the cracking with Reaver. Reaver's the tool. When I did this, it took me 19 hours. And I had to buy 3 routers that were in like $100 price range to finally get a router that could survive this attack. But companies have things to worry about here, because if you buy Cisco routers, at least Linksys, I think, they have WPS, and you, even if you turn it off, you remain vulnerable. Turning it off just means you can't use it, but the attack still works. So I expected a bunch of firmware updates to address this, and it didn't happen. So anyway, War Drive's coming up, but it's not that date. The War Drive is November 7th. Yeah, November 7th at night, if you want to come War Drive with us.
What day of the week is that?
Thursday night. And if you want to do it, there's some recommendations for software, I think right on my homepage. I'll put it up on my homepage announcement section within the next week or so. If people want to do it, it's fun. A lot of people get a kick out of it. You get a more hands-on feel of how the wireless networks are in the city. And it's interesting. For example, you see the digital divide. One day we went down to the southeast, down 4th Street, and we drove for a mile. I was in the car. The guy said, let's check out digital divide. We went for a mile down there. There were 3 computers scanning. There's not a single wireless network at all. I couldn't believe it. You might as well be in a cornfield. And that's what Obama said when he got it. He said, you don't understand. There's 15% of America are completely left out of this internet thing. They got nothing. And students I get from that area, they tell me, I got no computer at home at all. There's nothing in the library. I got no internet. I got to use this machine for everything. And they're really not kidding. It's like a desert. Anyway, he may be better now. That was a couple years ago.
It's like the baby, like.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a significant amount of our people are nowhere, not on the internet at all. No web page, no email, no nothing. It's hard to believe. Anyway,
We have to get TV.
so like, yeah, what's that?
I said they probably got a TV.
Yeah, they got a TV, and there's a bunch of projects which I've been involved in, and my students have been, to set up internet points and computers in the library and stuff down there, because they really got nothing. Even just a public shared library would be a lot more helpful for it. Anyway, so home groups, you got in Windows 7. You couldn't use them with Vista or XP. And they're also work in Windows 8, of course. Windows 7, Windows 8 share across the home group just fine. All right, so the last batch of iClickers. Which security measure requires an authentication server? Quit at 30. All right, and that's 8021X. That's also called Enterprise WPA, a special server like a domain controller. All right, which security measure is the strongest to keep people off your network if they don't belong there? WPA 2, of course, the newest in revs, they wouldn't bother making it 2 if it wasn't better, except when they make mistakes, like WPS. All right, which protocol goes at 11 megs, and therefore you don't see too much of it anymore? All right, and that's 802.11b, the original wireless. 802.11a granted 54. It was faster, but it was not widely deployed. It ran in a different frequency range. 802.11b was the typical consumer one. And which security measure is badly broken and you shouldn't use it? 30. All right, and the best answer is E, because both of these are too broken to use. Both of those will let anybody in your network without the key, which is downright rude. All right.
Wait, just.
So 12s and 10s, there are 3 winners, 69, 16, and 61. And so I'll clean up and go to the lab.
Yeah, that's straight over to Best Buy.